Jack was an ordinary human man. He worked as an engineer, fixing communication towers and satellite dishes. He didn't wear armor or carry a weapon. He didn't lead soldiers or make big speeches. His job was quiet, and that's how he liked it. But everything changed the day he was sent to the trade world of Veltar. Veltar was strange. It floated between stars, filled with color, noise, and hundreds of alien species. The buildings looked like they were made of crystal, and creatures flew through the sky on wings that shimmered like glass. Jack had been to many places before, but nothing prepared him for this world. He had only one job: to repair a broken satellite above the market zone. The satellite helped send trade signals between ships and stations. Without it, no one could make deals or talk across systems. It sounded important, but to Jack, it was just another fix. He landed in the center of the marketplace, holding his tools. He walked through the crowd, dodging long tails, strange arms, and glowing eyes. Some aliens gave him curious stares. Others didn't even notice him. Humans weren't common here. Jack was focused on his scanner when he bumped into someone. Stumbled back and looked up. The woman standing in front of him wasn't just tall, she was elegant. It's powerful, and unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin was silver blue, and her hair looked like soft white mist. Her eyes glowed gently like stars, and she wore a long robe that moved as if it floated. Jack blinked. "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to." The crowd around them suddenly froze. No one moved. Jack noticed the silence. The tall woman tilted her head and looked at him with deep interest. Her voice was calm, but it echoed as if it had weight. "This man," she said slowly, pointing at Jack, "is my mate." Jack's jaw dropped. "What?" he whispered. The crowd gasped. Some backed away. Others stared in shock, a tiny alien near. Jack whispered, "That's Queen Zelana." Jack's eyes widened. "Queen? He just bumped into a queen?" Two guards stepped forward, their armor shining, but she raised her hand to stop them. She didn't look angry. She looked thoughtful. Jack took a careful step back. "Listen, I think there's a mistake. I'm not anyone important. I just fix stuff." Queen Zelana's glowing eyes didn't blink. "I felt the thread. It's ancient, rare, but it is real. You are the one." Jack looked around, hoping someone would step in and explain what was going on. "Ma'am," he said nervously, "I think maybe you scanned the wrong guy." She smiled slightly. "I do not scan. I feel." Her voice had a strange effect, calm but firm. Jack felt like arguing more would be useless. A short alien official ran forward, out of breath. "Queen Zelana, do you wish to report this bond to the council?" "Yes," she said. "Send word to Earth." Wait, Jack raised his hands. "I didn't agree to anything. I'm just here for a repair job." The Queen stepped closer. Jack felt her presence, strong, warm, and somehow peaceful. "You are not trapped," she said. "You may come with me to the palace. Stay as long as you need. Decide freely. The bond has begun." Jack looked up at the sky. He wanted to call his ship and leave. But at the same time, something inside him felt strange, like a tiny pull, soft but real. His voice was small. "What is this thread you keep talking about?" she answered gently. "It's a connection between souls, not created by machines or law. It happens only once in a queen's life. It led me to you." Jack stared at her. "But why me?" Didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked away slowly. The crowd opened a path for her. One of her guards approached Jack. "You are now invited to the Velthri Palace. You may refuse. But we must record your response for the council." Jack let out a long breath. "Fine," he said. "I'll go, but just for a visit." The ride to the palace was quiet. Jack sat inside a floating vehicle that glided through the sky. Buildings passed below like waves of crystal. The air shimmered, and the view was beautiful. But Jack didn't feel relaxed. He was just a worker. How did he get mixed up in something so strange? A voice message came through his communicator. It was Captain Drex, his boss from the ship orbiting Velthurjak. The captain said, "We received a message from the Galactic Council. They're asking if you're accepting a royal bond." "What?" "No!" Jack shouted into the mic. "Tell them no." "Easy," the captain said. You're not under arrest. It's just a request. You're allowed to visit and learn, but be careful. This queen has a powerful voice in the council. Don't make any sudden moves. Great advice, Jack muttered. The palace gates opened. As they arrived, they were made of white stone that glowed faintly in the dusk. The guards bowed as Jack entered. The inside was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. Floating lights, moving water walls, and creatures made of soft color moving. Through the halls, Queen Zaylana stood at the end of the main chamber. She didn't smile, but her expression was calm. "Welcome," she said. "This place is now open to you." Jack nodded slowly. "Thanks, I guess." She stepped down from her platform and stood before him. "Rest," she said. "We will. Speak again tomorrow." As Jack followed a servant down the glowing hallway, he whispered to himself, "How did fixing one satellite turn into this?" He didn't know the answer. Something told him. This was only the beginning. Jack didn't sleep much that night. The room they gave him was beautiful, with soft glowing walls and a view of the floating gardens. But his mind couldn't rest. He kept thinking about Queen Zaylana's words. "This man is my mate." It still made no sense to him. He was just a human engineer. He came to fix a broken satellite. Not to get involved in royal customs or ancient bonds, he sat near the wide window, watching strange birds fly through the air, their wings glowing in the dark. When morning came, a soft chime rang, and the door opened. A servant bowed and said, "The queen requests your presence in the inner garden." Jack stood up and followed. They passed through long halls filled with music made by flowing water and floating stones. Everything in the palace seemed alive. The air smelled sweet and clean. Finally, they reached the garden. It looked like it had no entries, with glass-like leaves, ponds with glowing fish, and flowers that opened when someone walked near. Queen Zaylana sat near a large tree, her eyes closed. She was meditating. Jack stood quietly. After a moment, she opened her eyes and smiled slightly. "Did you rest well, Jack of Earth?" she asked. "Sort of," Jack replied. "I had a lot on my mind." She nodded. "That is expected. Come, sit." He sat beside her on a smooth stone. The tree above them gave off a soft hum. "I want to understand," Jack said. "Why me? How can you know I'm your mate just from a feeling?"
Oh.
Zaylana looked at the trees, then back at him. "Thread is not a feeling like joy or sadness," she said. "It is a deep link. Very few ever feel it. When I touched your energy, the thread pulled tight." Jack scratched his head. "But I don't feel anything like that." She nodded again. "Your kind may not." "The thread is ancient older then. Are two worlds. Sometimes it starts small. It grows when both sides accept it." Jack looked down at the grass. "So, you think if I stay here long enough, I'll feel it too?" "Perhaps," she said. "But you are free to choose." "I will not bind someone who does not wish it." That surprised Jack. He thought she tried to convince him harder. "So, you're not trying to trap me?" Zaylana gave a soft laugh. "No, I do not need a prisoner. I want a partner." They sat in silence for a while. Jack looked around. "This place, it's peaceful," he said. "Not what I expected from a queen's palace." "Peace is my choice," she replied. "My people followed war for many years. I changed that. Some approved, others did not." Jack turned to her. "So you're unusual, even among your own?" She smiled fully this time. "Very much so."
Oh.
Later that day, Jack explored more of the palace. Everywhere he went, aliens greeted him with quiet bows and curious stares. In one hall, he met an old scholar named Irith. The alien had 6 eyes and wore a long robe. He seemed wise and calm. "You are the queen's chosen mate," Irith said. "So they say," Jack replied. "I still don't get it." Irith nodded. "She has waited long, refused many who begged for her attention. Then you came. It means something," Jack sighed. "But I didn't do anything special. Sometimes being true to yourself is special." Enough. Jack didn't know how to respond to that. As evening came, Jack was brought to a quiet chamber with soft light and a table full of strange food. Queen Zaylana joined him. They sat facing each other. "Today you learned a little about My world, she said. Tomorrow, you may choose to learn more or return to your ship. Jack looked at her. She wasn't pushing him. She just sat there, honest and calm. I think I'll stay one more day, he said. But I still don't know what you see in me. Zaylana leaned forward. I see kindness in your actions. It's honesty in your eyes, strength in your spirit. The thread responds to that. Jack felt his heart beat a little faster. Not out of fear, but something else. You believe in fate? He asked. I believe in connection, she replied. And in trusting what we cannot fully explain. That night, Jack walked alone in the gardens. Stars filled the sky, and a soft wind moved the trees. He felt something in his chest, not fear, not love, but curiosity. He wasn't ready to call her his mate, but he also wasn't ready to leave. He thought about his quiet life, fixing machines and staying out of trouble. Then he thought about her strange, strong, and peaceful. Maybe this journey had a reason, maybe not, but he would give it one more day, just one more. The next morning, Jack woke up feeling more rested than before. Sunlight passed gently through the soft glass walls, and strange birds sang outside his window. For the first time since arriving, he felt calm. A soft chime rang. The same servant as before entered and bowed. The Queen requests your presence for a tour of the inner sanctum. Jack nodded. All right, let's go. They walked through tall halls, deeper into the palace. The walls here were different, covered with carvings and symbols Jack couldn't read. They glowed faintly with blue and silver light. It was quiet here, almost like a temple. Queen Zaylana stood waiting at the end of the corridor. Today she wore a robe the color of midnight, and a thin crown rested gently on her head. Jack had to admit she looked more powerful than any ruler he had ever seen, but also more peaceful. Good morning, Jack of Earth, she said. Morning, he replied. What's this place? This is the heart of Velthari culture, she said. Our memory, our truth, and now yours to see. She placed a hand on the wall. Slowly, part of the stone shifted, revealing a room filled with floating shapes of light. They moved slowly, telling stories of battles, peace talks, and leaders from long ago. This is beautiful, Jack whispered. Ceyl. Anna walked beside him. These are not just stories. They are my ancestors. They show what we learned and what we forgot. Jack watched one of the glowing shapes show a battle in space. Many ships were destroyed. Others fled. What happened there? He asked. That was the War of Sundering, she answered. Our people chose conquest. We lost half our stars. But you brought peace. But you brought peace? Yes, she said. I stopped the old ways. Some called me weak. Others followed. But peace always brings resistance. Jack looked at another scene. This one showed a young queen standing alone, facing a large council. Is that you? He asked. Zeylana nodded. My first council meeting. They laughed at my words. Called me unusual. Still, I spoke. Jack smiled a little. You're braver than you look, she smiled back. And you are braver than you believe. As they left the chamber, a loud alarm echoed through the palace halls. Jack tensed. The guards ran toward the noise, weapons ready. What's happening? Jack asked. A guard spoke quickly. There's been an attack attempt. Inside the palace, Zaylana stayed calm. Find the attacker. Do not harm them unless necessary. Jack followed the queen down another hall, where a small crowd had gathered. A figure was pinned to the ground by two guards. It was a Velthari. Male, younger, wearing dark clothes. He tried to rush the queen's chamber with a plasma blade. One guard explained. Zed Lana stepped forward slowly. Why? She asked the attacker. The young alien struggled to speak. You have betrayed the throne. You choose peace. And now you bond with an outsider. It is shame. The queen's voice was steady. I choose what brings life, not fear. She turned to her guards. Lock him away, but treat him with care. Jack watched the scene in silence. The queen didn't even flinch. She had been targeted, Yet she responded without anger. As the crowd slowly moved, Zelana turned to Jack. "Are you frightened?" little Jack admitted. "But more surprised by how you handled that." She looked at him gently. "Balance is easy. Patience is not." Later that day, they sat in the Queen's study. The walls there were lined with maps of stars and systems. Jack asked questions, and Zelana answered without hesitation. He learned how she dealt with hostile empires, greedy traders, and even traitors among her own people. "You never wanted war?" Jack asked. "Never," she said. "My parents ruled with strength. I rule with trust." Jack nodded slowly. "I see why they call you unusual." She smiled. "And still you stay." "I guess I want to understand," Jack said. "You say?" "This bond, the thread is real. I don't know if I believe it yet, but something is keeping me here." She leaned back. "Maybe that something is already the thread." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. Again, his thoughts wouldn't quiet. He walked through the palace alone, passing silent halls and glowing trees. Then he found himself near the garden from before. He sat by the same tree where he and Zelana had talked. He looked up at the stars and wondered.
What would happen if he accepted the bond? Could he really stay here forever?
He didn't have answers. But then he heard a soft voice. "You come here often now." He turned. Queen Zelana stood behind him, her robe glowing in the moonlight. "Can't sleep," Jack said. She sat beside him. "Neither can I." They sat in silence. A soft wind moved through the leaves. Jack finally asked, "Do you think a person can change just because someone else believes in them?" Zelana answered, "I do." He looked at her. "Then maybe I'm already changing." She didn't smile or speak. She just nodded gently. And for the first time since arriving on Velthar, Jack didn't feel lost. He still didn't understand everything. But he wasn't afraid anymore. He was starting to see what the Queen saw in him. The next day began with quiet tension. The attack from the night before still echoed through the palace. Guards moved in tighter formations. Their steps were sharper. Eyes watched every hallway. But Queen Zelana remained calm, as if nothing had changed. Jack noticed it all. And he felt different, too. Before, he was just a visitor. People watched him like someone important. Whispers followed him, some full of curiosity, others filled with doubt. He didn't blame them. Still didn't understand why he was there, but he couldn't deny something had started inside him. The Queen invited him to the sun chamber, a wide room open to the sky, where light danced across a pool of clear water. She stood at the edge, her hands behind her back. "Good morning," she said without turning. "Morning," Jack replied, walking to her side. "It's beautiful here. This chamber is where our leaders once meditated before great decisions." She said, "Today, I brought you here, because there is something you must see." A panel beside her lit up. A wide hologram formed above the pool, showing a map of the stars. "What is that?" Jack asked. "That," she said softly, "is the Talakar fleet." Small red lights blinked along the outer edges of Velthari space. Lines moved slowly, pointing toward their system. Jack frowned. "They're moving in." "Yes. Talakar Empire believes my rule is weak. They refuse our peace. And now they prepare for war." Jack stared at the lights. He felt a tightness in his chest. "How big is their fleet?" he asked. 20 ships. Heavy war class. Our defenses cannot match them directly." He looked at her. "You're calm." She turned to face him. "Because there is still hope, and because I have seen the future." Jack raised an eyebrow. "You've seen it?" "Since I was young," she said. "Visions come to me in dreams. Not every night, not always clear, but they show what may come." He didn't laugh, not this time. After everything he'd seen in her palace, he didn't doubt her words anymore. "And what did you see?" he asked. She took a slow breath. "I saw fire in the sky. I saw my people afraid. And I saw a human standing beside me, holding my hand. The thread shined between us, and then the fire stopped." Jack looked down at the pool. "You saw me? I believe it was you," she said. "But visions are not commands. They are warnings, possibilities." He turned away and walked a few steps. Everything felt heavier now. This wasn't just about a strange bond. This was about war. You think this bond between us can stop an entire fleet? He asked. I believe the threat awakens something hidden, something powerful, but only if both sides accept it. Jack was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, and if I say no, then we face the Taliker with what we have, and I will still thank you for your kindness. He stared at her. She wasn't begging. She wasn't forcing him. She simply believed in him. That made it harder to walk away. Later, Jack found himself in the Hall of Echoes. It's a large room where past queens had recorded their thoughts. Glowing lines moved across the floor, playing voices from the past. He sat quietly, listening to stories of fear, of mistakes, and of courage. A voice echoed through the chamber. It was Queen Zelana's own voice from years ago. I do not want to lead through fear. I want to lead with hope. But hope is dangerous. It makes others nervous. Still, I will carry it, even if I must carry it alone. Jack listened again. Something about her words stayed with him. He stood up and left the hall. At night, the sky turned a deep purple. Jack found Zelana in the garden again, watching stars move slowly across the sky. He walked up beside her and sat down. You know, he said, I never believed in fate. I know, she replied without looking, but I'm starting to believe in you. Zelana turned toward him. Her glowing eyes softened. And that is enough. He reached out, unsure why. She placed her hand in his. A soft light flickered. Between them, faint, but real. Like a thread of silver light connecting their palms. Jack blinked. Did you see that? As she whispered. It has begun. A message came the next morning. The Taliker fleet will arrive in 3 cycles, a guard reported. They are not responding to calls? Zelana nodded. Then we prepare. Jack stood beside her. This time, he wasn't unsure. He looked the guard in the eye and asked, What can I do to help? The guard looked surprised but nodded in respect. Anna turned to Jack. We will go to the crystal chamber. There the bond will be tested. Deep beneath the palace, hidden from the sky, was the crystal chamber. Glowing stones covered the walls. The air was warm and thick with energy. Zelana and Jack stood in the center. Their hands touched. The light between them glowed again brighter this time. Let your heart open, Zelana whispered. Do not fear the bond. Jack closed his eyes. He felt something, warmth, strength, unity. Like he wasn't alone anymore. Like their thoughts were touching when he opened his eyes. The chamber was filled with light. It's working, he said. Yes, she said. And the galaxy will feel it soon. 3 cycles later, the warning alarms echoed through the palace. High above the world of Velthor, the Taliker fleet had arrived. 20 dark warships floated in space, their weapons charged and ready. They didn't send messages. They didn't wait for talks. They were here for war. Inside the palace, the air was calm, but heavy. Jack stood beside Queen Zelana at the top of the sky platform. He looked out over her city, her robe flowing in the wind. She did not speak for a while. Jack looked up at the sky. They're not bluffing, are they? Zelana shook her head. No, they believe strength is silence and power. They believe our peace is weakness. But we're not weak, Jack said. No, she replied softly. Not anymore. They turned and walked back inside. The guards followed silently, watching Jack with new eyes. Ever since the light between him and the Queen had appeared, many had started to believe in the bond still. Belief alone would not stop warships. The Palace War Council gathered in the shield room. The table showed a large projection of space. With the Taliker ships in red, small blue dots showed Velthori defense, ships only half the size. A general stood and spoke. They will land troops by morning. We cannot stop all of them. The Queen must escape while there's still time. Zelana's voice was firm. I will not run. The general's voice cracked slightly. Your Highness, no, she said again. If I flee, they win before they fight. The room fell quiet. Jack looked at her. She didn't show fear even when facing overwhelming odds. He took a deep breath. What if we use the bond? He asked. The generals turned toward him. Many looked confused. Some looked doubtful. What do you mean? One asked. Jack stepped closer to the table. The thread between us, it's real. We saw it. We felt it. And it's not just a light. It's power. Zalana nodded. When awakened fully, the thread can connect minds, strengthen wills, and even bend energy fields. A tech advisor leaned in. It's like ancient tech, forgotten long ago. Jack continued. Maybe we can use it to send a message wave, something strong enough to stop them from attacking. But that's just a theory, one of the council members said. So is peace, Jack replied. But she chose it anyway. Zalana looked at Jack. Her expression was full of quiet pride. We will try.
In the crystal chamber deeper.
Then any place in the palace, Jack and Zalana stood together again. This time, others surrounded them, scientists, guards, leaders, and even skeptics. The room was glowing softly. The air felt warm and strange, as if waiting. Jack reached out his hand. Zalana took it without hesitation. The thread of light appeared instantly between them. But now it pulsed, stronger, faster. Focus, Zalana said. Trust what you feel. Jack closed his eyes. His heart beat loud in his chest. Then he let go of fear. He thought of the Queen, for people, of the city, of everything he had seen since arriving here. A sudden burst of light flashed around them. The floor glowed. The walls hummed. And then energy moved upward, through the palace and into the sky. On the Taliker flagship, the commander growled. What is this? Energy surged from the palace. His second officer replied, Sensors show. Unknown frequencies, spreading fast. Prepare to fire, the commander ordered. But before they could act, the wave reached them. It wasn't a weapon. It's not fire or blast. It was something else, something deep. The crew paused. Their weapons powered down, their thoughts filled with sudden emotion, memories, dreams, peace, fear, regret. One by one, the soldiers dropped their arms, unsure why. Their minds felt touched by something they couldn't explain. The commander shouted, Resist it! But even he felt the change. Back in the palace, Jack gasped. He saw flashes in his mind, stars, rivers, faces he didn't know. He felt connected, like he was a single thread in a massive, endless web. Zalana's voice echoed in his thoughts. Do you see now? He whispered. Yes. The energy faded slowly. The room dimmed. Everyone inside was silent. A moment later, a message came. Through the palace come, this is the Taliker fleet. We are standing down. The room exploded in gasps and shouts. Jack opened his eyes. He looked at Zalana. We did it, he said softly. No, she said, placing her hand on his. We shared it. That is what makes it stronger. The news spread fast across the galaxy. A war was stopped, not by weapons, but by a bond between two souls, a queen and a human. Many didn't understand it. Some didn't believe it. But those who felt the wave knew it was real. Jack sat on a balcony that night, watching the stars. Zedla Anna joined him. He changed everything, she said. So did you, he replied. You just did it first. She smiled. Do you still feel like an outsider? Jack looked at her. No, I feel like I'm home. The wind moved gently. Lights from the city blinked below. He reached out again. She took his hand, and once more the thread glowed between them. This time, it didn't surprise him. The days after the Taliker fleet's retreat were quiet but filled with change. Jack walked through the palace halls and noticed how many eyes watched him not with suspicion, but respect. The bond he shared with Queen Zalana was no longer a secret. It was a symbol of hope. Zed Lane met him in the inner garden, where the glowing flowers bloomed even at night. We smiled warmly. You have done more than I could imagine, she said. Our people believe in the thread now. Jack shook his head. It was your strength that changed everything. I just stood beside you." She took his hand gently. "And that is why you are my mate." Jack still felt strange hearing those words. Mate. It was not just a title. It was a promise. A bond of trust and partnership. "What happens now?" Asked. "Now we build a future," she replied. "One where peace is stronger than fear." The Galactic Council sent envoys to Velthor. Many came with questions and doubts. Some brought offers of alliance, others warnings. Jack attended the meetings alongside Zaylana. He spoke calmly, sharing his experiences as a human in an alien world. Explained the thread not as magic, but as connection, understanding, and choice. Slowly, the council began to listen. Jack found himself learning, too, about politics, diplomacy, and the delicate balance of power, though he was still just an engineer at heart. He knew his life had changed forever. One evening, Jack and Zaylana stood on the sky platform. Stars shone bright above, and the city lights twinkled below. "Do you miss Earth?" Zaylana asked. Jack looked at the distant blue planet visible in the night sky. "Sometimes, but this feels like home now," she smiled. "I hope you stay." "I do," he said. "Not because I have to, but because I want to." They stood silently, hands clasped, watching the calm sky. Days later, a festival began. In the city, it was the celebration of peace, new beginnings, and the unusual bond between a queen and her human mate. Jack walked through the crowded streets, amazed by the joy and colors. Aliens of all shapes and sizes danced and sang. Children played games and waved glowing flags. Zilne walked beside him, radiant in her royal robes. Many came forward to greet her and thank Jack for his courage. Jack laughed with the children and shared stories of Earth. He felt accepted, not as an outsider, but as part of something greater. As the festival reached its peak, Jacon Zalana stood before the crowd in the great Plaza Zed. Lanan spoke with her strong, clear voice. "Today we show the galaxy that bonds can cross worlds, and that trust can defeat fear," Jack added. "It is not about who you are or where you come from. It is about what you choose to be." The crowd cheered, and Jack felt a deep warmth inside. He looked at Zaylana and saw not just a queen, but a partner, a friend, and a new family. Later that night, in the quiet palace garden, Jack and Zaylana sat beneath the glowing trees. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we never met?" Jack asked softly. Zelena took his hand. "Sometimes, but then I remember the thread found us for a reason." Jack nodded. "I'm glad it did." She smiled. "So am I, mate." Jack smiled back. "Me too." The thread between them glowed. Softly, a light that would guide their future together. And for the first time, Jack felt truly ready for whatever the galaxy would bring.